How many of you stop to think about a food guide? Whether it's the Canadian Food Guide or Rainbow or the American Food Pyramid, then how many of you actually follow it? What foods do you believe you must eat every day for health, and how much? What are you putting in the tank? Probably time to make a few changes. Most people, when they eat a meal, have a meat, a vegetable, and a starch. Simple. Pretty little plate laid out like Mama used to do it. Steak, potato, salad, and a glass of milk for the whippersnappers. Or maybe chicken, rice, steamed veg, a stir fry, so to speak. Or a big salad, if you're like me, with grilled salmon and a hunk of dinner bun. Not bad. Now, what happens psychologically when one of those, the meat, the vegetable, or the starch, is missing? Usually the meat or the starch. It's not a neat meal anymore, is it? Or you get that strange feeling that something's missing and you're still hungry. And if you're like me, dinner is never complete without a sweet treat after, even if it's just a chunk of chocolate. Where did this notion come from? Dessert with a meal, or a proper meal has to have animal meat, always a starch like pasta, rice, or bread. Who created this? And is it the best way to get the nutrients our body truly needs to survive? Well, let me tell you, it's a relatively modern concept, and it's a first world concept called the food guide. Only the richest of populations can afford to eat animal meat with every meal. It's not even all that good for you, though the guide has improved since the 70s. But when you compare the recommended diet to that of the cultures who are considered the healthiest and longest lived, it gets a C-. Somewhere around the beginning of food industrialization, think World War II, the Canadian government came up with daily values for certain foods so people wouldn't get sick. This much egg, this much vitamin C from fruit, this much milk, meat, vegetables, cod liver oil, etc. This is back when people ate locally and for the season because they didn't have a choice. These old school food guides were quite fascinating and saved people from scurvy and other vitamin deficiencies. Remember, there was a time when people died from not enough vitamin C. To think they could have just sucked on a lemon. These old school food rules eventually turned into the Canada Food Guide and US Food Pyramid, if that's your source. The government had and has the best of intentions at heart. However, somewhere along the line around 1949, we were told as a nation to eat meat or animal products at every single meal. Around this time, sugar had become a delicious and well-accepted drug. Addition to the typical American-Canadian diet. So that was also touted as healthful in reasonable doses. Things were, well, to put it lightly, becoming corrupted. That's all well and good, not really, because it set the stage for a new world of food. Processed, with preservatives, additives, chemicals, and so on, all with the A-OK in our government food guide. And from there, the plague of sickness from what we now call diseases of affluence. That would be diabetes type 2, obesity, cancer, arthritis, cardiovascular disease. All too well known in our culture, all caused by too much fat, too much animal protein, too much sugar, refined oils, refined grains, processed food, and so on. So what of the food guide? I think it's a redo. It's not a complete disaster. Canada's latest update to the Health Rainbow says per day an adult should have 7 servings of fruit and veg. That's pretty good. 7 servings of grain, but they don't say whole grain. 3 servings of milk and alternatives. 3 servings of meat and alternatives. I don't know about those. The US pyramid model is much the same. But do we need to say milk and alternatives, or should it be mineral-based foods? Do we need to say meat and alternatives, or should it be protein-based foods? What does the body actually need? What is best for the body that won't leave copious amounts of residue for the liver to detox? When they say milk, we think dairy, not nut milks or mineral sources of food. When they say meat, we think animal products, not legumes, grains, nuts, seeds, quinoa, peas, seaweed, all excellent plant-based sources of protein. This is where our food guides are misguides. Do bagels belong on a health food pyramid? Do you know the glycemic index of a bagel? You're better off with ice cream. Does skim milk belong on a food pyramid? It's refined of any goodness, and you're left with a highly acidic form of nearly impossible to digest protein. What about juice? Well, unless it's fresh pressed, people think it's a great substitute for fruit. not. Number one, it's been cooked to pasteurize, so the vitamin C we drink it for is gone, the natural vitamin C. The enzymes are dead. Then vitamin C is added back through cheap sources like ascorbic acid from corn, likely genetically modified corn. No thanks. Weak at best, Health Canada. Hence, I give it a C- grade. People deserve better. So here's my 40 Girls food guide with everything the body needs to not just survive, but thrive. Number one, vegetables and fruit. Most your fuel should come from this gang of goodies. This is the vitamin, mineral, and fiber group and includes daily servings from the following subgroups. Here we go. Leafy greens, roots and squashes, basic veggies like celery, cauliflower, onions, and fruit, fresh or cooked. Then 2 to 3 times a week, servings from the C vegetable category. So full of nutrients, as well as nightshades like tomato and potatoes if inflammation is in check for you. Number two, the carbohydrate group, and I always mean complex when I refer to eating carbohydrates. So 2 to 3 servings of whole grains like brown rice, oats, millet, buckwheat, rye, corn, popcorn, etc. a day. Number three, protein. Daily servings from plant-based protein sources like peas, lentils, chickpeas, various beans, and so on. Then 1 to 5 times a week, depending on your body's needs, from animal protein sources like fish, fowl, eggs, meat. Number four, this is a new category, ferments. Think homemade sauerkraut, miso, kefir, yogurt, kombucha, etc. once a day. And number five, a girl's got to have her fun, party food. Save this for the weekends, parties, and special occasions. That would be your wine, sugar, cheese, fried foods, cake, party on. Now, once I get my graphics team to drop the 40 Girls Food Guide geode, I'll make posters available for all of you. Ha! We'll see when that happens. Until then, commit it to memory, do your best, check old habits at the door, and never blindly follow establishment when you're unsure what vested interests are at stake that could be sending you down a less than healthful direction. Keep your food clean, and remember, please like and share.